Hello YouTube, XCT here. For this video we are going to exploit StreamIO on HackTheBox. StreamIO is an Active Directory machine where we are going to use a file inclusion vulnerability to get a shell and then escalate privileges via an unintended method that involves IIS and bypasses a patch HackTheBox applied to the machine. So let's start by looking at the port scan. There is Kerberos here and LDAP, so we are likely dealing with domain controller. And also there's an IIS web server running, so we have port 80 and 443. And if we scroll down a bit, from the certificate, we can see in the subject alternative names that there are two entries, StreamIO.htb and watch.streamio.htb. So let's have a look at these websites. So here we just get a default page. Let's try HTTPS and see if something different comes up. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So let's explore the page a bit. This looks a bit like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. Here we get some names. Usually they're a good thing to note down on Active Directory boxes in case you have to do something with users later on. There's a contact form. It's always a good idea to just try to submit them, see if anything happens. And this at least looks like something happened, so this might be an attack vector here to put some XSS or something like that. It's not working on this box, but usually these contact forms on machines like that can be interesting. Another username here. There's also some subscribe thing here. Don't know if that one did anything. See if there's anything else. There's also this login thing here, but we don't have a login. We could try like admin. It's not doing anything. Seem to be able to register an account, so let's try that. All right, let's try to log in. That link seems to be broken. But we were at the login page earlier, so I can try it again here. But it isn't working, even though I provided the correct username and password. So something is broken with the login function here. And we will see later what exactly is causing this. So yeah, we don't have too much here at the moment. What we can do is we can fast this page a bit. Maybe there are some endpoints we don't know about yet. What we want to do is I'm going to run dir search here. Just like that. And there's an admin directory. Let's have a look at that one. But it's forbidden, so maybe you can only access that one if you actually log into the application. Yeah, but other than that, there wasn't anything too interesting in this directory brute forcing output here. So one thing one could do at this point is to, if you have Burp Pro, you can always go to like the page here and do an audit. So we do crawl and audit, balanced, just let it run. It's always a good idea because sometimes Burp finds like SQL injection and stuff like that. So it's good to have it run in the background. And speaking of SQL injection, we could also like enter something here, then take the request and give it to SQL map basically. We have to activate Burp again. Here we go. This is the login request. Put it here. And we wanted to try to inject into our username or password mainly. So let's do SQL map, give it the request and just see what it comes up with. Yeah, it has one issue here. It's trying HTTP and not HTTPS. So it just gets the IIS default page, which we saw, right? That's obviously going to be a problem. So we have to tell it to use SSL. And I think it's going like this. Yes, now it's actually trying to inject. Okay, while we wait for this to do something, we can also explore the other page we saw in the beginning, which is watch.streamio.htb. So let's have a look at this one. Here we can apparently put some email address. And it's telling us subscribe. We don't know what's happening here yet. Maybe could be like a SQL injection here too. But we will probably have to do that in Verb. Let's also do a dir search on this page though, just like we did here. While this is running, we can try to explore the page a bit, maybe have a look at the source. Doesn't look like there are any comments that are interesting or any endpoints linked that we don't know about yet. There's one endpoint we didn't know about yet, which is search.php. So let's have a look at that one. All right, seems like there's a list of movies here and we can like filter for it. So let's try 500 for the first one. Yeah, that seems to work. So could check for SQL injection here again, but don't get any output. So that doesn't really help. But we can just give that to SQL map as well if we wanted to. So let's just do that. Actually, we can see that our first attempt at injection actually worked, but it's erroring out, or at least taking a very long time. So it wasn't really viable to do that. Let's do now the search.request that I still have copied here. We want to go and tell SQL map to inject here. And then we can just use the same command we used before, just for our search.request. See if anything comes back. And this one is actually kind of working. This is from an earlier session, but I don't want you to wait for a long time. It found an injection, which it tells us is Boolean-based blind. But then, at least my version that I have here is erroring out because it can't detect the backend. And even if you give it like the backend with --dbms, it still will error out here. So that's not really helping. So at least the first injection got a bit further, I guess. But it's erroring here as well. So the SQL map attempts, we might be able to get it to work. And I know some people have, but it's not the route we are going to go here. Let's just do it manually. Let's send that to the repeater and then try to do something here. The first thing we could kind of try to do before we use the repeater, I just want to show it here once. We could do something like or1 equals 1. But there's a filter for some injections that will block us. Actually, this 5-minute block thing here is not true, because if you remove that, we can just continue to do stuff. That's good. Otherwise, it would have been really annoying. So yeah, let's try to do this injection manually. So we put something here like the 500, and then let's just put a quote here. And then let's try to see if we can somehow do a union select to get the amount of columns. Just going to do 1 here to start, and then we do -- to close the query. And we don't get anything back like we did before. So let's see if we can find the amount of columns by just repeating this. And I don't want to bore you, so I'm just going to add a few more because I already know how many it is. And if we get to 6 here, we can actually see that we get something back. So just for comparison, again, if I do 5 here, which is not the correct amount of columns, there's nothing. And if I do 6, I actually get some output back. And we can see that we get the 2 and the 3 back. So if we want to have something reflected on the page, like for example, we could try to grab the database version here. Because the 2 got displayed here, we should get the version in this position as well. So let's try that. And yeah, we can see that there's indeed a SQL injection. It's working, and we're getting some output here. Doing it without SQL map is a bit annoying, but it's kind of the only thing we have available right now, so we'll stick with it. So there's a cheat sheet here for SQL injection from Payload All the Things, where you can just look up like how do you list databases, how do you list columns, and so on. That's always a good idea to look these up, and I do that as well most of the time. First, we're going to look for databases. So we do union select from sys databases. That's the table databases are in. And then we do string agg on the name. So this just concatenates all the name results into one string. So if we do that, we actually get the database names back. So that's very useful for us. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, or the next thing we need, is basically we need tables and columns. Again, this payload is more or less from the Payload All the Things repository. we are going to combine table and column names with a dot. That's the concat here. And we are going to aggregate all the results into one string. We are going to get that from the information schema columns. So this should give us all table and all column names. And yeah, here we go. These are the tables, movies, users, and yeah, basically just that, movies and users. And we see that users has a password field and username field. So now all that's left to do is to grab the username and passwords from the table. So we do concatenate username and password, just a space here. And we're grabbing that from the users table. So let's run that. And now we get a nice list here of usernames and their hashes. So just copy that. And I already cleaned that up here. What you have to do is basically remove the spaces and make it nice so it looks like this, right? So we can crack it with John. So all we have to do here is run rocky.txt on those hashes and specify the format as raw.5. So let's do that. And you can see it just takes a few seconds and basically cracks some of the passwords. And what we want to do now is basically just try these. Either you could do it against the box itself via like SMB or Kerberos, or we could also just try the web app and see if it works. I already know which one works. You can try it manually or write a script. I'm just going to use the one that will work. So we have this user Yoshi hide here. And if we go back to the first page, we can actually log in with this user. And now we are logged into the application and we can go to admin and can actually see the admin panel now. Now we can explore this admin panel a bit. There's user, where we apparently could delete the user. There's staff management, so even more users to delete. Movie management. We can leave a message for the admin. This again sounds like XSS, but there's nothing here. And you can see for all of these, it has like a parameter here on top. So one thing we can do is, of course, explore all of these options, inspect the requests, and so on. But in this case, what will actually help is if we do a fuzz on this parameter to see if there's a new one. Let's take that one, use the bub intruder here, and we need a word list. So we can use discovery, web content, and then the raft word list usually are pretty good. So let's just use raft small words. See where it is here and run that and then look at the length of the response if there's like a difference. Okay, we can pause that. He had already found something. So we can see staff, we can see user, but we also can see debug, and debug is something we didn't see before. So let's try that one. And now it's telling us that this option is for developers only, but we do not really know what it does, right? So if we just put something here, we don't really get much of a clue. So we have to guess that. What we can do is we can take this debug thing here and send that once again to the intruder. Let's just clear this from the session. And this time it's correct. We want to fuzz what we give to debug here, right? So let's load a payload. And obviously, we don't know how this works yet, but if you're just going to fuzz it, you can try like different stuff like LFI, for example. SQL injection would be a good idea as well. But in this case, we are going with the LFI word list first. So let's use the jheadx one. It's usually a good one. And just run it and see if anything comes back. Yeah, and almost all of them gave the same response except these two here. And this actually looks like we can get the win.ini file via a local file inclusion. And yeah, that's the content here. So this definitely works. So we can also try that like manually. If we go like just back, we can get it here as well. So this LFI is definitely working. Now we don't really know what we want to read, so to be a bit creative here, we know this is a PHP application, so it would be good to read like the source code of the PHP. And what you do in this case is basically you apply a PHP filter to get the file as base64. This way we don't get like the executed PHP, but we get the source. So let's try to grab just the index.php file here. And this indeed works, right? This big blob here is the base64 output of the source code of the PHP. Put that into CyberChef here and decode it. and we can see some stuff. There's a password here. This is usually a good idea to note in case there are some password reuse later on. But other than that, it really doesn't look too exciting. Here we can see how the debug thing is working. It's basically just doing an include. So really what we want to see now is if maybe there are other files in this admin directory we haven't seen yet. So let's fuzz a bit and maybe we can include another PHP file or get the source of another PHP file. So let's fuzz the site like this. We are going to use fuzz with the medium files list and we are going to look for files in the admin directory. We could potentially look somewhere else too, but this is just a start here, right? And because this is an authenticated area, we are going to provide it the session ID cookie. And we can see it found index.php, so this seems to be working. Let's wait and see if there's something else. And here we go. There's another file called master.php. So we now go back to our LFI here. We can try to get this master.php as well. And we get the base 64 again, paste that here. And now there's a new site here. See if there's anything interesting. Apparently this only works if this page is included, okay? Scroll down a bit more. And right at the bottom here, there's something very suspicious. It's basically looking for an include parameter in the post parameters, and then it's just reading from this post parameter and then doing an eval on it. This is definitely something we can exploit, because if we post to this master.php, provide this include parameter, and then just like put a URL to our machine, it will then grab the contents, so PHP, for example, that we host, and just eval it. So that should be a sure way to get a shell. So first of all, we have to think about the payload, and this is a Windows machine. So we're going to need some reverse shell payload, either like a binary or PowerShell. I tend to use PowerShell because it's easy and quick. So here we just go with a simple PowerShell reverse shell one-liner. You can also find this like on my website if you need it. And this will just connect back on 443 and give us a reverse shell. So what do we do with this now? Well, we have to host it on our system. So I'm just going to create a file here and just call it X. Doesn't need to have a PHP extension. And also it doesn't need to have PHP tags because it just grabs the content and puts that into an eval, right? We do it basically like this. Copy our base 64 in here. So this should be fine. Now we of course need a listener. So now all we have to do is to trigger it. I'm using curl here. You can also do it like via burp or something. Basically, we provide the session ID because it's still in the authenticated area. We send a post request and we send that to debug that is including master.php. Because if you remember, the site only does what we want, the eval at the end, if this master.php is included, not if called directly. So we have to do it like that. And we provided the post parameter called include with a URL to our box. So then it's reading everything from this URL and just evaling it. And yeah, well, X is our shell. So let's run that and see if we can get a shell. And this looks good. Yeah, let's do whoami here. And yeah, we are on the box. Okay, so if we look at whoami all, we can see that we don't really have any special privileges. And we're also not in any special groups here. And this is a bit unexpected because we are running this web shell by exploiting the web app, right? So usually you would think you would run as an IIS user because if you find a custom user after exploiting a web app, you usually the identity that is used by the application pool. And apparently that's not really what's happening here. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe this is different because they use different app pools or they have like a separate user for PHP. I'm not sure. But this is going to be important because if we look like, let's go one back here, at the inet pub directory, we can see that there are folders here for StreamIO, for watch.streamio, and there's also the default web root. And technically you could like define different app pools for these. So maybe they did that. I'm not 100% sure. But when the box was released, what I did was I went to the root here, and this is like the default page, right? So if you just call that without HTTPS like this, you should get there. This is this directory here. And when it got released, we could just upload an ASPX shell here. And when we would then get a shell from this new ASPX web shell, we would actually have the SeImpersonate privilege and could exploit this. So what HackTheBox did basically is they have a changelog here. You can see that they patched an unintended path after we exploited this, and basically blocked ASPX and the IS manager, so it won't execute any ASP or ASPX anymore. So this path is basically closed. There's no easy way to get the SeImpersonate privilege back. But still, if we like go back here and do an calculate on this whole directory, we can see that we do have full control over this root here, as well as all the other directories. Even though they disabled the handler, they didn't really fix the underlying issue. We can still put files here. The question is just what kind of file can you put here that will give you a shell that's not an ASP or an ASPX shell. And also, by the way, not a PHP one, because that will just end up probably the same way we already had it. And also, it's not guaranteed that the PHP handler is even enabled for this one here, for this virtual host. So after a bit of research, I eventually came across this post here by NCC Group, and they found a way to do exactly what we want. They found a file extension called XAMLX, and this is some kind of workflow service thing. I'm not 100% sure how you're legitimately using that. Of course, I linked the blog post so you can read it up, but that's beyond the scope of this video. It's just important to know that there's an extension for this. And basically, this file allows you to run commands. So these XAMLX files can basically have code in them, like C# code, and they will just be run. Certain conditions are met. So the only downside basically is that these files aren't handled by default. We somehow have to tell the web server to load the file extension for these. And the way we can do that is via a web.config file. So let's scroll down a bit. And they actually describe that as well. So they give you the web.config file here that you need to add this extension. And basically, we just can copy this web.config file, upload it, then we can have this new file format, right? So if we look a bit on examples here, this one looks pretty interesting. Basically, we have this workflow service XML file. And yeah, this looks an awful lot like C#. So it looks like we can just upload this file together with the web.config and then somehow execute commands. If you scroll down a bit, there's only one thing left to do besides uploading the files, and that is posting to this file we uploaded. So we need this body here, it's requiring it, and we need this SOAP action here. So upload two files, make this post, and we should be good. So let's try that out. So I already created this file here. This is basically a copy from the file from the post, and I just added my base64 encoded PowerShell reverse shell here, like the one we used before. And also we have this web.config, which is one-to-one what we saw in the post. So let's put them on the server. So let's see if we can call it. And yeah, this looks good. We don't really know what this means yet, but at least it's displaying something and not an error, so it's probably working. Send it to the repeater. And we saw we need to send a post request, so let's try that. Okay, we get a bad request, but we also had to send some kind of post body, so let's do that. It's still not happy. It wants a special content type here, so why not give it this content type at once? Okay, a new error. Action empty cannot be processed. Okay, if we look back, we need this SOAP action here, so put that in here as well. Now it's hanging. That's usually a good sign. But we didn't start a listener, so let's do that again. And here we go. We are Yoshihide. We were Yoshihide before, so it's not really helping, I guess. But let's check the privileges. And here we go. We got the SeImpersonate privilege, which we don't have on this other shell. So all this effort basically gave us the SeImpersonate privilege, which is super powerful. So now we can actually think about exploiting it. One way you can do that is print spoofer, which is like the go-to default, I think, but spooler service is disabled on this box, so we can't use that. Another thing we can use is SweetPotato that combines different techniques, and one of them is the EFS-RPC method, which is also used by Petit Potam, and this one works without having the spooler service available, so we can use that in our case. There are also other ways like Rogue Potato and also some others you can use here to escalate privileges, but I'm just going with this one. I generate a simple reverse shell here. You can basically use anything you want and put it here in my web root. Now, all we have to do is pull these files over. I'm downloading them to program data, so I know where they are. Now we can close this shell. We don't need it anymore. Open a new listener, and now we just run the potato exploit like this. Tell it which method to use, which is EFS-RPC, and then give us the binary we want to run. Let's do that. And this already looks pretty good. Let's see. We are system. So now we can go back like to users. Let's see, maybe this Nick user like has the user flag. Yep, and I think the other one has the root flag. And yeah, that's basically it for the box. If you're interested in the intended solution, you can of course check out like the video from IPSec or the blog from OXDF. They're usually very good. I'm not going to show them because there are a lot of resources for that probably already when this video comes out. I'm just going to leave you with this unintended path. So that's it from my side. Thank you for watching the video and see you next time.